Immediately after defeating Nelson Peltz in the proxy fight for shareholder seats, Bob Iger let the world know exactly where Disney stands by doubling down on the message and gender bending the Silver Surfer. This video is sponsored by Incogni. The Disney proxy fight is over for now, and no matter how many smaller retailer shareholders Nelson Peltz was able to win over to his side, it wasn't enough to overcome the combined might of BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, JP Morgan Chase, George Lucas, and the other major institutional shareholders who love where Iger has been taking the company these past few years. And with Peltz defeated for the moment, what does this mean going forward? We're about to find out, but before we do, have you noticed how so many of the online ads you come across seem oddly personal to you? Well, there's a reason for that, and it doesn't stop with ads, because that's where the spam emails and maybe even automated robocalls begin, and it only gets worse from there. If you ever signed up for a newsletter, a website, or some other service, then chances are your data was resold without you ever agreeing to it. There's a shadow industry of data brokers aggregating, buying, and reselling personal data like your full name, email address, phone number, home address, SSN, shopping habits, online alias, employment history, financial information, and much, much more. And as valuable as that information may be for those trading in it, all you get out of it is of course spam, and even that is a best case scenario. In the US in particular, your data may end up in public search sites where you really don't want it to be. For example, health insurance companies are known to use some of that data as determinants of health, meaning your documented online activity may actually increase your rates. There is also the risk that your data sooner or later will be leaked in a data breach where it's made freely available for outright criminals, putting you at additional risk of more targeted scams and even identity theft, where loans may be taken out in your name. The good news though is that no matter how they obtained it, you have the right to request that these data brokers delete the information they have about you. The bad news is that there are hundreds of them, and each and every one will try every trick to weasel out of deleting your data. And worse still, even if they do, there's nothing preventing them from collecting it again. The really good news then is that Incogni, this video sponsored, can take care of this for you. Incogni helps you protect your privacy and take your personal data off the market by reaching out to data brokers on your behalf, demand your personal data be removed, and plow through their objections as they come. And better still, they'll send repeat removal requests in case they should get a hold of your data again. And best of all, the whole process is automated. All you have to do is create an account, grant Incogni the right to work on your behalf, and kick back and relax while they do the work for you, keeping you up to date with the progress every step of the way. And since this video is sponsored by Incogni, we naturally have a deal for you. Use our code MIDNIGHT at the link in the description and you'll get 60% off an annual Incogni plan. So head down to the description and get your data protected now. With that, let's move on to what Iger's victory actually means. As we have said in several earlier videos, Iger was indeed terrified of Nelson Peltz. Just because he won this round doesn't make that any less so, and he was willing to burn a lot of shareholder money to achieve this outcome. Depending on who you ask, 40 to 50 million that ultimately belonged to shareholders was spent on denying those very shareholders any insight into what is actually going on in Disney board meetings. Because make no mistake about it, that is what this proxy fight was ultimately about. Transparency and insight into how Disney is actually being run. As established in our previous video, the board of directors for any public company is supposed to be appointed by the shareholders, and the fiduciary responsibility of any board member is to hold the CEO accountable to those shareholders. To put it bluntly, the role of the board is to ensure that the CEO is on purpose and on mission, ensuring that he is actually working for the shareholders. But for some weird reason, the SEC are turning a blind eye to the fact that this is not the case at Disney. At Disney, it isn't the shareholders who have appointed the board, but Bob Iger himself. Worse yet, according to the epic CNBC expose, Iger appointed people that he is personally close to, which by implication means that they have a conflict of interest, as they can't hold their friend accountable on behalf of the shareholders. You know, the shareholders who didn't appoint them, and whom they have no allegiance towards, because it was their friend Bob Iger who gave them that pimp position. Making matters even worse, most of them have barely any Disney shares themselves, and thus have little to no stake in how Disney performs. For this reason, as I have maintained for years now, Disney functionally doesn't have a board. What passes for one is there to serve Iger, not the shareholders. On the contrary, this board may even shield him from the shareholders, as everything Iger wants to do, no matter how bad it may be for the shareholders, still gets the approved by the board seal of approval. And since there are no one on that board repping the shareholders, they have no idea what motivates Iger to run Disney the way that he does, or if indeed creating shareholder value is a priority at all, as all they have to go on are the platitudes presented in earnings calls and other public appearances. Which means the shareholders have no idea of how the company is actually being run. They don't really know anything about the company's borderline illegal DEI initiatives, how they are causing the actual talent to flee the company, or the true details about how many customers are fleeing as well. It was that, first and foremost, that Nelson Peltz could have changed had he been elected. He could have brought transparency and bring to light what is going on, and even more importantly, what has been going on for years already, quite possibly in direct violation of fiduciary obligations. And in my opinion, that is indeed why Peltz was such a threat to Iger and his board. Alas, Peltz wasn't able to secure the votes he needed, which means that Bob Iger is now free to continue to run Disney however he wants, in a continued shroud of secrecy, without shareholder insight and without board oversight, as again, Disney for all intents and purposes functionally still doesn't have a board. If I were to hazard a guess, so this is me speculating here, as no one really knows what is going on behind the closed doors at Disney. The only ones Bob Iger answers to are the likes of Jamie Dimon, the head of JP Morgan Chase, who endorsed him, and BlackRock. You know, the companies which are fully on board with stakeholder capitalism. The school of management that comes with ESG and DEI obligations, and the price for which they're very happy for the other shareholders to absorb. The markets weren't too happy though, as Iger's victory was met with an immediate fall in share price, and as if to demonstrate why, Disney just soft confirmed that for all of Iger's platitudes about restoring creativity to the center of their business, nothing is changing. On the contrary, they are doubling down on the very kind of messaging that destroyed every single one of their successful brands in the past 5 years. Many were disappointed by the portrayal of the Silver Surfer in 2007's Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, but alas, it would appear that that is as comic book accurate as the Silver Surfer is ever going to get, because confirming the long-standing leaks and rumors, Disney soft announced the Silver Surfer is being gender bent, by way of a controlled leak to Deadline Hollywood. Their exclusive reads, with the 4 actors set to play the iconic members of the super team, Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four now has its sights set on who will play Silver Surfer, and it looks like they're going with one of the town's biggest rising stars. Sources tell Deadline Hollywood that Emmy winner Julia Garner is set to play the iconic comic book character in Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four. Jumping forward a bit, WandaVision helmer Matt Shakman, that's a red flag right there, is directing Fantastic Four off a script by Josh Friedman, Jeff Kaplan, Eric Pearson, and Ian Springer. Production will begin this summer, and the film is set to bow on July 25th, 2025. Marvel Studios had no comment, outside of leaking the story, of course. While plot details for this film are unknown, sources say Garner will play Shalabal, a version of Silver Surfer from the comics. Which is another way of saying that this is another virtue signaling piece of stunt casting, in an age where the audience have proved that they are abandoning the MCU in droves because of virtue signaling stunt casting, so they just announced the further decline of Marvel. Now, I don't blame anyone for getting excited about the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine, but just like Spider-Man No Way Home before it, that movie is a fluke. Afterwards, they're going straight back to the kind of content that has chased away audiences worldwide. In short, shareholders better hope that Nelson Peltz isn't ready to throw in the towel just yet. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. And before you go, don't forget to protect your personal data with Incogni. Use our code MIDNIGHT at the link in the description and you'll get 60% off an annual Incogni plan.